Thank you very much and good morning. We're not aware of any protocol that has been put in place, mainly by businesses in terms of workers returning back to work. We have been raising some issues with the Minister of Employment and Labour to ensure that all protocols are observed. Our worry, the biggest worry for us is on the transport, because we think transport is the weakest link in relation to social distancing, etc. and etc. We think employers can do better in ensuring that the COVID-19 regulations are observed. And we think if they can strictly manage those issues, we might be in a better position to ensure that there is no massive spread of the infection. So it's a question of talking to our shop stewards, talking to our officials that they must encourage workers to look after themselves, to ensure that as they work, they observe all these protocols. Of course, the question of life and livelihood are equally important these times. People are coming back from home. I think they are poorer than before. The schools are going to be opening very, very soon. So they need all money that they can put their hands on. But at the same time, life is equally important.
Yeah. General Secretary, let's talk about the workers in the front line of the fight against COVID-19. It's health workers. One of the unions belonging in the COSATU fold is DINOSA, and I just want to read quickly what they are saying in their statement, particularly in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. They're saying that workers are still leaking their wounds from how badly they were treated by the current administration, where they were denied salary increment, but also the issue of COVID-19 danger pay. Where are issues in relation to that right now?
We're not aware in terms of the negotiations in the bargaining chambers, because those are issues that are discussed in the bargaining chamber where the unions are sitting. But in relation to the question of salaries, I think this is a bad, I can't describe it, how government has treated workers in the manner that they did. We have raised these issues with the president. The unions have taken a decision that we needed to appeal the Labour Appeal Court judgment, in which we believe we'll be able to win these things moving forward. But whether we win it in court or not, the issues of the government respecting the collective bargaining, which we think is under attack, is an issue that as we start this year, we're going to go back to the streets in relation to those issues. So we're going to use both the boardroom as well as the street in fighting this. This is a battle that we can't lose. We have to fight all over, because if we allow government to do this thing, why then employers will not do the same?
General Secretary, the issues here around the salary increment, for example, if we just focus the attention a little bit there, you are part of the governing alliance, COSATU, ANC, SACP, SANCO. Why is it so difficult to resolve this issue?
I think it's a policy that government has taken, that in every respect, workers are the weakest link. Whenever compromises have to be made, the attack is on workers. Workers on these matters, when it comes to their salaries, they are on their own. If the alliance was in a position to do these things, they could have resolved it long time ago. We think there's no willingness from government. It's just treating workers with disdain, as we have seen workers being treated with disdain in relation to the PPEs and the frontline workers. So workers on this matter, they are on their own. We are not getting a clear answers as to why government is not implementing wages. We don't believe it's a question of money. We think it's just a new strategy to attack collective bargaining globally. By the way, not only in South Africa. Workers are denied their increases when everybody's getting their increases, and the costs are going sky high, and nobody's talking about those issues. That's why we resolved that we'll go to court if need be. We're going to go to the ILO, but we're going to go to the street. We're mobilizing for the biggest strike, not only for the public sector, but all workers, because this fight is not only targeting public sectors. They are just being use as the testing pool.
How do you respond to the criticism then that this proves just how weak COSATU has become? As a result of this, the likes of SAFTU were immediately formed as a result of the departure of people like Zulinze Mavavi from the COSATU fold. You are part of the problem, some critics say.
They might be correct in terms of saying trade unions are weak globally. That's a fight we are. That's why workers are joining the trade union. If you look to the question of membership that COSATU enjoys, I mean, just last year we gained over 100,000 members. Is that workers, ordinary workers on the street, they still believe in trade union. They still believe strongly in COSATU. That's why they join in thousands. But the battles and the struggle for workers will continue all over. It doesn't matter whether you are in an alliance or not. On some of the issues, yes, you might be making progress. But when it comes to the workplaces, to the question of salaries, workers are on their own. That's why we have to go to strike.
Mr. Nchalinchali, let's then talk about the issue of workers, mine workers, who we were told just as the festive season was starting by the Health MEC in the Northwest that all of them, without fail, they are going to have to quarantine before they get back to the places of work. Are you aware of that? And what is the general adherence to mine safety regulations, particularly with the issue of COVID-19 with us?
I think that might be opportunistic, and I don't know how they're going to manage it. How are they going to quarantine workers coming back to work? If the MEC has spoken to the mining houses that when workers come back, they're going to quarantine, I don't know how they're going to do it and what is going to happen with their wages during that particular period. So I'm not privy to any engagement by the trade unions in the mining sectors and the mining houses in terms of what the MEC might have said. It's easier sometimes to make these pronouncements, but a question of managing them and ensure that they are being kept, I think is very, very difficult for me to understand. There are thousands and thousands of mine workers coming all over in terms of how they're going to quarantine. I don't know. Many of them, they're still living in compounds. Many of them, they're living in shacks around Northwest. It's with one room and with some of their family. How they're going to quarantine, I think the MEC is in a better position to explain.
It's a very interesting point you make, General Secretary, because as you say, it's easy sometimes to make these statements without really thinking it through. Do you think it's something that is just not going to be workable? It's not something that the MEC there, including the government in the Northwest, are not going to be able to manage this. So is the industry, because perhaps the demand is going to be on the mining houses themselves to say, make sure that these workers, before they get back underground, they are quarantined. And what then happens to jobs?
Exactly. That's why it's difficult for me to explain. Some of them living in compounds, you can't even quarantine. These people are not living in one room. They are living it many in one room. They are living in shacks, being many. It might be easier for anybody who might be living in a house, 4-room house, that you might be isolated in one room, because that's what quarantine means. But being with your family, I don't know how it's going to work.
Yeah. Final question to you, General Secretary. With regards to the alcohol ban, we heard, for example, Chrisani Baragwanath saying that for the first time in history, on the first day of a new year, there were 0 cases of emergencies in as far as alcohol-related, injuries are concerned. Would you support, as COSATU, keep in mind the issue of making sure that jobs are there, are maintained, would you support a periodic ban in alcohol sales to try and lessen the burden on the health system? Is that something that you would agree with as COSATU?
I think it's not is a very difficult option that one can take. We have to think it through and then say, will we be able to create jobs? Will we be able to absorb jobs? Will we be able to sustain the revenue that is generated through the sin tax? So it's a very complicated issue. The question of putting health first is an issue that everybody supports, but the means of doing those issues is a very complicated matter. I can't gamble on that issue and say, yes, do this, it will happen. The question of educating about the abuse of alcohol is something that will need to be dealing with those issues. So it's not only the alcohol that we normally talk about in the question of the bottle stores and the breweries. It's the alcohol as the means of how people are using it. So I can't really fully make a statement on this issue. It's something that COSATU has to think through.
All right, COSATU General Secretary Peggy Njalinjali, thank you very much for your time.